Outer Wilds is the best video game ever made, and as far as I'm concerned, there aren't even any other horses in that fight. I'm not going to sit here and proselytize about why that's the case, because that's not the point and it's never going to be the point. There's a time and a place for everything, and if you haven't played the game, I'm not about to start moshing at the Wiggles concert. It's a wholly unique experience that can only be had one time, there's nothing else like it, and it's not only my favorite game of all time, it's likely the work of art that has affected me the most viscerally ever, and sharing any information beyond that would whittle away at the experience for you. And I'm a bitch, not a monster. With all that said, I can comfortably say we've done this bit, so now we can do this bit, meaning you can keep watching if you're a real one, and you're a real one if you fucking played Outer Wilds. If you've heard anything at all about this game, it's either been about the wrong game, or that it's possibly the most notorious game you can only play for the first time once. And I guess that's true in the same way using your thumb doesn't change what you call it. But much the same, the real point to be made is that you only get to play Outer Wilds for the first time, period. And I'm going to be repeating myself a fair bit no matter what here, so I'll reiterate that I need you to play it before continuing to watch. I mean it. I usually like to bury the lead somewhere between the nebulous, ever-shifting mass of self-consciousness and Brazil, but this is my favorite game of all time, and I do not want you to ruin it for yourself because you want to watch the silly little owl monster video. If you don't believe me, then believe the people who have already listened. The base game alone means so much to me that this video isn't even going to cover the expansion because I'm not yet mentally prepared to see anything added to or changed about it. If all that still somehow wasn't enough to chase you away, allow me to derail further before getting into it by announcing that in addition to now being officially permanently affiliated with smart vibrators and indoctrinated into both Final Fantasy and VR chat as a result, I'm also finally selling merch. I've partnered with fellow idiot Bricky's merch shop, Orchid 8, in order to sell shirts, stickers, art prints, and a piece of merch I'm not confident I can show at all on YouTube. To keep things simple, I'll just describe it as a body pillow, or for the more cultured among you, a Hadouken Mikami. All of the printing is done in-house and the merch itself is extremely high quality, so thanks Bricky, you can have the pass too. So head on down to Shammy.soy and you can wear a dumb thing I said in a video several years after, some really odd Pride merch, or maybe do a little sinning. If you get a taste for it, feel free to hit up Shammy.toys and rock your pussy prostate combo meal to some Heaven Piercer along with whatever other features I accidentally manifest while trying to shitpost like some kind of vengeful cum goddess who was cast down and deserved it. Hi Grandma! Alright, that's all it says on the copy, so now we can actually get started, and I think the best way to do that is to ramp up slowly so the theoretical brain users will be able to drop off at the first sign of something that could get them remotely interested. Handy as a writing exercise for me as well, since I now have to roleplay as if I think anything in this game is at all boring whatsoever. I suppose if you pinched my ass, I'd say the closest thing to boring is the visual style, as it's somewhat generic looking from a model and texture standpoint. But at the same time, the actual design of the buildings, technology, and worlds themselves has an incredibly deliberate haphazard thrown in taped together look that really grabs me by the goat. This also creates an incredible contrast as you explore the clean and strange ancient ruins left behind by the Nomai, because I guess if you try to make a sci-fi video game without an ancient, super advanced, extinct race, Unity spits out a compiler error. It makes sense though, since the mission statement of Outer Wilds is to encourage the player to explore and learn for the simple reason of satiating your own curiosity, to learn about and understand the solar system you've been plopped into. I mentioned this in the Elden Ring video, but there is a purity in the enjoyment of exploration and discovery, and unlike in Elden Ring, it's taken further here as it's being done for its own sake, and not so you can get the Mahonrai Morian-comer to complete the build of Latter-day Saints. An apt comparison, actually, as dork-ass nerds are so uppity about reading item descriptions and shit to piece together the lore and story of that game, and that's essentially the entire gameplay loop of Outer Wilds. Now, I understand that flying from planet to planet in a full-on physics simulation of a solar system, exploring and figuring out the unique things about it, and steadily piecing together what happened at the Nomai and working out the other cosmic phenomena sounds like a bit of a snooze cruise. So it's lucky that Kelsey Beecham made a few incredibly simple but powerful writing choices. The first to point out is that you aren't the only explorer sent out by Outer Wilds Ventures. There is another on each of the planets you can reach that all have distinct and memorable personalities. Most people's favorite seems to be Rybeck, which is understandable, but I'm far more partial to Gabbro, as they're the platonic ideal of the homie, and I think the most unique overall. The purpose of these characters, from a gameplay standpoint, is to guide the player's hand slightly and give them ideas of things they could go out and explore and investigate at their leisure, and having them represented believably as people with their own reasons to have set out themselves grounds both them and the exploration in a way that feels far more engaging than it would otherwise. The more interesting decision to point out, though, is how the Nomai themselves are written. This could obviously work well enough on its face, see the dork-ass nerd section of this paper for reasoning, but it's elevated to a whole new level compared to its many many contemporaries by having the things you read be incredibly, nearly disturbingly human. You're not finding ancient reports or tomes of knowledge. You're unearthing Lewis and Clark's fucking group chat. They're cracking jokes at one another, and you can track and trace various relationships and how they evolve over time across different walls and even different planets entirely sometimes. It's no accident that the winding writing style of the Know My language mirrors the sort of corkboard conspiracy web you build out in your own spaceship. Understanding them not only as an ancient people, but as ancient people is far more interesting than it could have been otherwise. So we're already set up as having a pretty universally appealing draw that's self-encouraging with unique, interesting, intertwining writing that draws you into the mysteries of the world. So now we get to talk about the unmitigated genius of the worlds themselves. In the solar system of Outer Wilds, there are a total of 5 planets: the Hourglass Twins, Timber Hearth, Brittle Hollow, Giant's Deep, and Buca di Beppo, complete with biblically accurate Italians. Each planet has a variety of unique gimmicks and mechanics, with equally varying degrees of enjoyability. Well, that's not entirely true. It's more like they're all really cool and fuck the Rising Sand and Ember Twin, fuck it to death, I want to bury it myself, but I fear it might enjoy that. I won't be going into the specifics of any of these gimmicks, as again, if you are still watching and haven't played the game yet, I invite you to fuck off until you have done the required reading for this video. But I do want to note a consistent theme that runs across all of them, and that is time. Some of these links are obvious, like the Hourglass Twins being a literal cosmic timekeeping device, and others are spoilers, so where it isn't obvious, I'm just going to ask you to trust me on this. Beyond the design of the planets, the setting and even genre themselves lean into this. Because the solar system is an actual physics simulation, there is a constant pull from the sun. It is always visible, it is ever present and a constant force for you to contend with. This is deliberate as it links to the main theme explored by Outer Wilds as a work of literature, that being the passage of time, decay, and the inevitable, unavoidable oblivion of death. Nah, fuck off, we're not doing that. But yeah, it's a great theme to tackle in a game about exploring space, because space is the most fucked up and scary shit in the universe. Space is the one villain that doesn't fight back, because it's the one villain that doesn't have to. When you place yourself at the mercy of space and physics, death is not only certain, it is imminent. You are going to die. There is no way to beat this game without coming to terms with that, at least within the setting. But the game is going to do its damnedest to force you to deal with it outside of the game as well. Everything from the design of the planets, the gameplay, the story, the long-dead alien race that all mysteriously died, the crumbling of their legacy as you try to build your own. For who? And more importantly, why? It bleeds into every single thing about the game. Every other Hearthian explorer you meet represents different ways in which people cope with the inevitability of death, whether it be anxiety, reckless abandon, My Chemical Romance, or whatever. Every one of them is processing their fear in ways unique to them, and I don't think it's an accident that the one who accepts, mediates, and embraces it healthily is the one who enables you to reset things without resorting to suicide. There are times where you will realize that there is something you need to do, some step you have to take, and you are confronted with the fact that you don't have time to do it. You're too late. You failed. And guess what? It wouldn't have even mattered if you hadn't. Nothing matters to the degree that the game about accepting and confronting that you are not the center of the universe has to make you the literal center of its universe to avoid floating point errors. But that's a whole bucket of fish I don't really want to open right now, because the theme of death and the intrinsic meaninglessness of life and inevitability of failure is extrapolated further by the way the game integrates gameplay mechanics centered around quantum theory. Throughout Outer Wilds, there are things made of quantum material that shift, move, and change things based on whether or not they're being observed. This is used to create some compelling puzzles, but more important to me is how it applies to the theming. Naturally, a game that covers the inevitability of death is going to grapple with the inherent meaninglessness of life, and the quantum stones are simultaneously an acceptance and a refutation of that idea carefully reduced into a gameplay mechanic. They don't exist until observed. They don't matter until you see them. You have the ability to be affected by them, but only as long as you keep it in sight. It exists as long as you can see it. The point of Outer Wilds is not that you can't do everything your first time around. It's not even that you can't do everything. It's that you are going to die. The immediacy and inevitability of this is what makes the things you do beforehand so important. Beyond anything that you create, the things that matter are also things you experience or even observe. That's why there's a fixation on quantum mechanics. Quantum objects are given form by the process of observation, and form is given meaning in the same way. There is no such thing as an intrinsic state or meaning. Meaning cannot exist without colliding with the semi-abstract concept of observation, which in and of itself creates both. Life has no purpose or meaning, but it's given context by death. Success is given context by failure. The only way for you to complete Outer Wilds without failing is to rob yourself of the experience altogether. The enjoyment is the process when it becomes immediately clear that repeated catastrophic failure is just a part of doing the thing. Failure is not an inevitable part of the process of creation. Creation is a byproduct of the process of failure. Actually, that's retard fallacy. What's retard fallacy? You're retarded. No, fuck off, we're not doing that either. This was a lot for me to deal with in the time I played the game, and it's only gotten more and more relevant and striking in the time that's passed since. This game is only about 20 hours long, and it took me about a month to beat it. Partially because I wanted to take my time with it and fully absorb how important it was, but mostly because it ran my brain under every setting on a Coca-Cola freestyle. For that entire month, I was extremely manic, suffered from anxiety attacks, averaging about 3 or 4 hours of sleep, and I'm not a monster, so I certainly wasn't gonna let all that mixer go to waste. I could feel the blood in my ears every time I was in a situation where I knew I was going to die. My hands would shake, and I'd drop the controller, and I would feel a deep, overwhelming fear erasing the world around me. Why are you playing this song? I'm doing everything right. I just want it to be okay. Some days I couldn't force myself to try at all. I went a week without touching it at one point, and the problems only got worse and worse and worse. The world continued to crumble while I wasn't looking, and in addition to the base existential dread, I've somehow completely convinced myself that projecting my bullshit onto rounding errors in video games with a vocabulary of mischief-era Mel Gibson is my fucking raison d'etre, so a nagging pit of failure was welling up inside of me too. It's so selfish. So self-obsessed and narcissistic. Reality itself is folding over, and I'm stuck perpetually sprinting for the finish line like the alcohol and irony at curtain call. And sometimes the frame rate drops. So I say fuck it. I finally strap myself in. I'm determined. I need to solve this. I need to fix it. And who's squaring up? Entropy? Step 2, motherfucker. I've been drinking green tea all goddamn day. I ain't down bad, bitch. I'm up for the fucking challenge. Except I'm not built different. I'm not up to fucking code. And so I fail. I give up after 3 deaths until I try again and again and again, and the anxiety grows and it grows and it grows, and I'm giving myself nightmares every night because the horror of reality keeps me from reaching the apex where the anxiety mounts to ataraxy, and I can understand that it is okay. Instead, I'm up sleepless for a month, frantically Googling how much melatonin is too much, how much do Italians have? I don't matter. Nothing I ever do or say or make will ever matter, and I process that in an empty bathtub blasting Shugazi on my phone speaker, so I'm down a rung to stereotype and then another for lying. I go to the circus and the clowns are fighting at the gates. I am not a suicide bomber in the marketplace of ideas. I am the 50th French philosopher interrogating the basis of all human understanding through language because people keep asking me to repeat myself at the drive-thru. I'm fucking French. There is a chimp fighting the sky who has decided that the rain means it's fighting back. I am making a dent. I am making something because I'm here. I'm where I want it. I've taken the leap, and the reality of crashing is so petrifying that I fly far enough from the sun that things start to decompress and I can feel myself freeze, hopelessly trapped at this intersection of id, ego, video games. I'm still hiding. I can't get past the wall of shrouding everything in jokes. I've written sentences, paragraphs, pages of what I really want to say, and then invariably deleted them. Not because I can't go back, not because you don't get to not be that person anymore after you do that, but because reading back the truth in my own voice is fucking terrifying. It doesn't work anymore. I've only managed to get a single drop of blood on the page, and seeing it already makes me want to vomit, and I swear with a few more tries I might finally fucking manage it. And I do not have the words to describe in this moment how much I hate you for seeing it. And that's retard fallacy. It's everything. It's the entire point. Sitting here and thinking about where I was when I played this game, of all the times I kicked the chair and was lucky enough to have hanged my existence on the sunrise so I could hit the floor and stand up again. I don't know. Life is funny. Being alive is such an astronomical improbability that it only seems right that something equally catastrophic and important would be the thing that ends it. But I'll probably just get hit by a bus or something. Facts are easy. Facts are simple. I don't matter. You don't matter. That's not important. What's important is that you're here, and you're not alone. No matter how often and how deeply it may feel that way, it might just take a little distance to see it. And in order to get there, in order to observe it, for it to take form, you have to try. Come on, if we're throwing a party at the edge of everything, are you seriously not even going to attempt a keg stand? Over the course of making this video, I've had to completely rewrite this entire section from scratch what feels like anywhere between 12 and 16 times. And every single time it's been hell because I have to put myself back there and process all of it all over again. And it's been hell because every single time I put myself there, I forget what all of that processing was for. I forgot how it ends, so I never got it right. Still don't really think I have, I just really don't want to fucking do this again. So I guess take it from me. You should be glad you never get to play this game again. I did, and the game was fucking done with me. I find it difficult to talk to anybody about everything that this game did to me, let alone everyone. It's scary, and while I'm walking away understanding the burden that's been lifted off my shoulders by not mattering, I don't know a not shitty way to put into words that the conclusion to that isn't that things aren't important. Not that any of this is even news. I'm just saying Albert Camus was spitting when he said, "Fuck it, we ball," like I'm trying to hit a fucking word count. I don't even know why I can't shake the concern about comments saying, this is barely even high school level philosophy, sips toilet. Like I'm the idiot who clicked the video with an owl in the thumbnail expecting better. It's not even something I didn't already know and believe. It's just the experience of it, the confrontation of it. It's so much different than reading and thinking about it. I am also visibly mentally ill, so I think it should go without saying that the game very, very possibly will not have the same effect on you, but I have never been as affected by a work of art as I was by Outer Wilds. It is my favorite game of all time, no contest, and I lied earlier about why I haven't played the expansion yet. I haven't played the expansion yet because of how much making this video has scared the shit out of me. So, naturally, it's the first thing I'm doing once it's finished. A lot of strangers and a lot of people I actually know might understandably come away from this video a little worried about me, and don't be. I know it might not sound all that convincing right now, but I'm feeling a lot better. The body in the coffin doesn't feel the nails. The hammer does. Look, the quality of writing in this last segment isn't very good, and that's because every time I try to draft it, it stops being true. I'm not skilled enough at the one form of creative expression I can actually do to make something that is both good and true. My soul's prose is pretentious and pathetic, and that's okay, because reality has done me an incredible kindness by making me not matter. It's okay for it not to be good. It's all okay. I know this conclusion part feels a bit meandering and all over the place, given how meaningful I'm saying it was, but the value of understanding that my life has no meaning isn't something I fully know how to express, and I'm glad, because I know what you're like, and that means I haven't been entirely successful in ruining this game for you. And if I'm wrong, or if this is the first thing of mine you've ever seen, you already know what I'm talking about. I don't need to explain it to you, and I feel plenty seen enough already. This is why I fucking love this game. This is why I fucking love games. Because words are feeble tools in the face of being. I am going to be paralyzingly embarrassed by this video the second it goes up. What the fuck can you do? Maybe someone who can't carry the world can't pull the sky down either. I think, therefore I'm right. Pretty good.
Stand apart from me.